Hello fellow cultivators, this is a commented tutorial video about finger build in the game Tale of Immortal. And this will be the second video in the series of tutorial videos that I will make for each element in this game. The first video was about the lightning build, and you can find the link of that video in the descriptions of this video. Now, if you have watched that video, which I kind of recommend you to watch, because I think it explains it very well, that you will find that this video will be a little bit different. This is because for lightning, for all the different special skills, they are all built around one thing, that is lightning bolt. But for finger and for many other elements, it's not like that. So it's really depending on what are the buff or debuff your martial skill is applying, and depending on that, your build are changed into many different categories. So instead, in this video, I will mainly talk about one build, which is kind of the strongest finger build. I will explain what are the martial skills, what are the special skills you want to use, and what is the ultimate. And once this is all done, including like what are the mind skills and why this build is powerful. Once all of these are done, I will talk about the other type. And this is because the other type is really not as good as the first one, but it can be useful in some special cases. Alright, let's now get started, because I realized that it's probably not that clear what I just said without really showing you what are those things means. Let's first talk about what are the three martial skills finger has. The first one, that is boomerang finger, and this is the type of martial skill you first learn at the very beginning of the game, and then you should not use it anymore because it is not very good. So what does it do? It shoots out a projectile to where your finger points, and then it will come back. And each time when it goes and it's going to come back, when it passes through an enemy, you will deal damage to it. Now, because my character is at reborn and above reborn, so I have two Nether birds, as is basically these two red things around my character. This is why in my case I will shoot out two projectiles, but if you are below that realm, you only shoot out one. And you can see it's just really one project, go and back, hits two times. Not very good. You notice that if you press down your press down your mouse, and you go, move your mouse up and down, you can sort of create this kind of fan-like thing if you want to make the range a bit larger. But yeah, in general, not very good. But fun thing is, at the very end of the game, when you're at the 10th realm, so transcendent, and when you actually gather the set effect, boomerang finger can be upgraded, and that become quite powerful. But apart from those, you really don't want to use it. And the second type of the martial skill, which is actually the one I would recommend you to use all the time, which is duality finger. And this is why I have two of them here, one for the debuff, one for the buff. Anyway, so duality finger is actually it's kind of a type of martial skill that you can see in many different elements. Basically, it shoots out multiple projectiles, so like this. Again, in your case, if you are below the reborn realm, you probably have only half of the projectiles I shoot out. And but yeah, because you can have multiple projectiles, when you are really close to the enemy, all of them will hit, and your DPS will be much higher. And also, you will hit the target multiple times, so it will be easier for you to apply the buff, the debuff. So what are this buff and debuff I was talking about? Keep on talking. So as you can see here, on top of the target, you can see this little icon, which there's a 13. So that is the debuff I'm applying to the target. And in case I'm changing my skill to a buff one, you will find the little icon on a different place. For example, let's see. This is okay, again in the Emptiness, but yeah, anyway. So the third type of martial skill is signless finger. It is again a very common type of martial skills in this game, and I would say most of them in this game are bad. And you can see why, because so what does it do is it will shoot out projectile and it will blow up at where your mouse points. So if I mouse point towards the target, yeah, the ball blows up and deal damage. But if my mouse is hitting up here, you see that even though it passes through the target, but it does not really do damage to it. And this makes it not super great. Anyway, so these are the 3 different type of martial skills, and as I mentioned before, I really only recommend Duality Finger. And now, back to the buff debuff thing. So this one, you can see from the third, let's say, or fourth, basically the first red sub skill here, that upon hitting the enemy, this skill has a 30% chance to apply a stack of so-called inner emptiness on the target. So this inner emptiness basically is a debuff which you apply to the target. If you remember, there's that little icon with 13 number on it. And 13 is actually the stacks, so basically number of stacks. And if you look at the right top, there's a little description here. What does inner emptiness do? It is a debuff to make a target attack minus 50. It lasts for 7 seconds and max stack 7. You might be thinking, why max stack is 7 when you already see 13? This is so the 7, actually all the 3 numbers here show minus 50, 7 seconds, 7 stacks are changeable. So minus 50 depending on your realm. I am at realm 10, so it's minus 50. When you are at maybe realm 1 or 2, it might be 0.1 or 1, minus 1 attack. It's really nothing. So that is exactly most of this buff or debuff do. So its effect looks nothing on paper, but all your special skills can, trigger this buff or debuff and create a special effect. And it is that special effect makes most of the builds powerful and viable. It is something really basic, but it is the core of all the builds. Maybe not all, most of the builds in this game. That is really hidden, that the developer does not really explain very well. And I know that in many cases, you probably start playing a lower difficulty. You do not know anything about this thing. You never notice, when I attack something, it will apply a debuff or buff to it. You still finish the entire game without noticing it, without any problem. But once you go to higher difficulty, for example, in Chaos, at some point you might find out, why am I so weak? And this is because you do not build your build properly, that's based upon this buff or debuffs, and you are not really making your build powerful. And it's not your fault, it's because developers never explain the thing properly. This is one of the reasons motivates me to make this series of videos, to explain what are the builds can be or should be look like. Anyways, go back to the buff debuff again. I'm sorry, I'm just going back and forth. But a second type of thing your martial skill can do, for example here, upon hitting enemy, it has 15% chance to grant you a stack of Unsealed Meridians. Unsealed Meridian, it is a buff you apply to yourself. Again, it's, attack 50, increase 50 for 7 seconds, max stack 7. Again, 50, it's realm dependent. In my case, I have 14k attacks. Adding 50 for 7 stacks or more stacks is always good, but not super important. And now, when you look at the sub-skills of this skill, for example, you can always find the one in orange, for example here, Unsealed Meridian max stacks plus 3. So this will all make 7 max stack to 10. And again, from your mind skills, you usually can get 3 from your secret manual, and you can get another 3 from your artifact spirit. This will make your maximum stacks usually to 16, and if you are losing, you don't have one of them, it will make it to 13. This is why you see 13 layers of inner emptiness when I will show you just now. Now let's just show what is this Unsealed Meridians. So I am attacking the target. Now instead of, you see that there are nothing on top of the target, but if you look at this thing, there's a little icon here 13, and you can also see it more clear probably from this place. where my mouse is. It shows increased attack. That is 13 layers of Unsealed Meridians. Sorry, okay. What is happening just now is a Nether bird effect. Just ignore it for now. So this is Unsealed Meridians, and this is the buff I was talking about. And the inner emptiness was the debuff I was talking about before. And why is this important? And this is because for every single element, you have 6 special skills. There's always 3 of them are, associated with the buff you apply to yourself, and other 3 of them are associated with the debuff you apply to the enemy. And in most of the time of this video, I will talk about a build which is based upon the debuff you apply to the enemy, which is Inner Emptiness. Let's shift back to the Inner Emptiness Duality Finger, and I will choose first of all this one, 7-star finger, as an example to show. Because this one is simple. It is not the one I recommend to you use, but it's just for showcase case. So what is written here? What does this thing do? It will release a corn-shaped area, some finger shadows. And if you have Inner Emptiness on the target, it will additionally receive finger damage and lose energy. So this is good, right? You basically, let's say, when I enter this thing, I do not attack the target. There's no any debuff layers on top of it. I use my skill. You see that it shoots out this projectile again, very nicely. It hits the enemy, it does some damage. But when I apply 13 layers of the debuff on top of it, I use thing again. Now you can see what's happening. There are 2 things. One is there's the minus 94, 94, a lot of MP loss for the enemy, right? That's one thing. Another thing, just use it again. You see that the number of 13 changes. It sometimes reduces to 11 or 12 and then increase back to 13. So what is happening here? So this is actually one important thing about finger build, which usually people don't say. But so when it says that when you use this special skill, it will consume all the stacks of the Inner Emptiness debuff. But how it actually works is it does not consume all the stacks at the same time. It consumes the stacks layer by layer. Which means if you have like 13 stacks on top of it, it will take some time for it to, consume all the layers. It's very fast. First of all, it's very fast. But it will take some time. And at the same time, when you're attacking it, you have these certain layers, you're attacking it. Then you are applying the stacks again, which means you are, at the same time, the layers of debuff are decreasing and increasing. And each time it decreases, it will make them deal more damage and make it lose 94 energy. This is why you see it's minus 94, 94, 94 there. And but at the same time you're applying the debuff to it, so it will continuously, it will be a much longer time as long as you're attacking. During super long time, the target will always be losing energy. So basically you are consuming the stacks of debuff all the time. Now, let's go back to a different type of special skill, which is the one we will use all the time, which is the best one. It's Void Spirit Blast. And let's look at what sub-skill it has. So first of all, again, based on the layers of Inner Emptiness, when you trigger it, it will make it lose 94 energy. But then when you look at the 7th sub-skill, so I think the second red one, for every stack of Inner Emptiness, it will increase energy loss by 200, which means not 94, you now will let it lose minus 300 something. And another thing is, if this skill is cast when there are at least 7 stacks, for the next 6 seconds, every time your martial skill hits the enemy, the target will again lose energy. So this is a good effect. Basically, not only you are letting it continuously losing energy by consuming the stacks of the debuff, each time you attack it, you will let it again lose more energy. This is important because of the minor skills, which I will introduce later. But for now, let's look at the next sub-skill. Each time when you trigger this debuff, the target will be stunned for 2 seconds. And now think about it. Basically, you are triggering the debuff all the time because you are attacking it. You are applying the debuff on top of it, and you are triggering it, which means when you use it, the target will be forever stunned. And that is exactly what is happening. So let's use this one. Let's attack the target. Use once. And you can see this little stars on top of it. That means it is stunned. It is not 2 seconds. You see that we have been more than 2 seconds. The numbers change from 13 to 12, but again to 13. And it's almost always stunned. It will lost at some point, but then you just need to put another special skill. And this is what makes it super powerful, because you are stunning the enemy all the time. So yourself is super safe because the enemy can't do anything to you. But in order to reach this effect, you need to attack really fast, because it really depends on how fast you can put this debuff on top of the target. And this is why for finger build you want fast attack. And to get fast attack, the easiest thing, martial skill specification. It is again a series of rewrite destinies you can get. The first level will reduce 15% of cooldown. The third level will be already 40% cooldown. So this is when you are at golden core. Yes, correct. So 40 layers, 40% of martial skill cooldown. Once you have this thing, and if you have your martial skill, this sub-skill, the skill's cooldown minus 0.2 seconds, you need to learn this one and comprehend it to read minus 0.2. So the base cooldown is 0.6, you minus 0.2 become 0.4, and you minus 40%, so multiply by 60%, so basically you become 0.24. And you are using duality fingers, basically you are shooting out multiple projectiles. Each of them have a chance to apply this debuff on the target to let you trigger. In this case, once you reach golden core, have enough, attack speed, you can forever stun enemy. But you might be thinking, okay, the enemy is stunned, but so what? Itself does make yourself very safe, but there are other safe ways. For example, in the infamous, wind motion skill, which I will never use because it's more like a bug to me. Or there are water builds which you can freeze enemy all the time. You're also safe, but you are very slowly taking down their, HP, because in chaos the enemy can have millions of billions of HP. And now it's the time when I introduce you the mind skills. So just like lightning, you have this lightning secret menu which will let lightning bolts and amplify your damage. For finger, the one thing makes your damage higher is in finger divine power. Again, divine power is this martial resistance mind skill, but martial resistance not important. What is important is the red sub-skill here in the 8th one. Every time you cause enemy to lose energy, 1000 energy, your attack will increase 451 for 5 seconds. Now you know why it is important to let enemy lose energy. So this is basically a circle. You use your martial skill, apply the debuff, use your special skill to trigger the debuff. Your enemy will be losing energy because the debuff is triggered. And also when you're attacking it, if you have this sub-skill, each time your martial skill hits, it will lose more energy. So your enemy is losing energy all the time. This allows you to increase your attack all the time in 5 seconds. At the end of 5 seconds, you will have much higher attack. For example, if when you're attacking an NPC which is higher than your realm, many cases your attack is lower than his defense. You can only do 1 damage. But if you're using finger correctly, you are stunning him so that he cannot harm you. And also your attack will be increasing all the time. Eventually you will higher than his defense and you can damage him. This is how finger builds can actually go against higher realm NPCs. This is what's most important part about finger divine power. But also, another thing is, actually, let me just put the correct guide on. Okay, here. So, Sutra, so the bind skill for HP, and Guide, the bind skill for MP. Both of them can have this sub-skill. You might already see it at some point of your game. Sorry. For example, here, the last sub-skill of the guide shows that every time you cause the enemy to lose energy, you will restore your energy. And same thing for the Sutra. In the 10th sub-skill here, every time you cause the enemy to lose energy, you will restore your HP. So basically, you trigger the debuff, your enemy lose his MP, but at the same time, you will increase your attack. You will regain HP, you will regain MP. And this is why this build in the Chinese community is called San Xi Zhi, which means, can be roughly translated as, let's say, 3 restoration finger. Basically, you are increasing your HP, MP, and attack. That's the 3 things. I found this translation a bit weird, that's why I call it Mana Burn Finger. And there's a video in my channel using this Mana Burn Finger against the 3 Immortals. And I call it this because most of its effects are based on the fact that you let the enemy lose mana. So it's like a mana burn effect. But anyway, that's just a name. But point is, when you equip the correct type, so apply debuff of the martial skill, correct special skill, which is the Void Spirit Blood. Yes, use this one. I will soon explain why not use the other one. And equip the correct mind skill, so finger divine power. Finger guide, not finger guide, sorry, a guide which has this sub skill and a sutra have this sub skill. You are good to go. This is the basic set of this finger build, and it is really powerful because you can see that you can stun the enemy. You are very safe. You are increasing your attack, so you can be doing very good damage. And that's it. And let's see. Right, if you look at the last sub-skill of Finger Divine Power here, there is this thing that when there's only one enemy, it again reduces your martial skill cooldown. So that is also very good. In fact, many times if you want to not only use Finger, but some other builds, you want to increase your martial skill speed even further, you can use the Finger Divine Power. But in this version, it's not always recommended because Fist Divine Power in this version are just too good to be missed. Except in this case, you are using a finger build, you have to use Finger Divine Power because that is the key thing. You need this thing to increase your own attack when you cause the enemy to lose the energy. And you might find, okay, but interestingly, I do not have a secret menu equipped. That is one good thing about the finger build, because when you don't need finger secret menu, even though it is good. For example, of course, this one you can see is all red, as just showcase you that normally for any element, the secret menu, or call it spiritual resistance mind skill, it will increase the maximum stack and duration of the buff and debuff. So you can find another +3 stacks here. And then there is also a way to convert buff into debuff or convert debuff into buff. That's the 6th and 7th sub-skill. And then there is also the 8th sub-skill says when there's on enemy, you will receive a stack of buff automatically. The next one shows when you start battle, you apply the debuff to the enemy automatically. So these two are good when you do not have your martial skill to apply the buff or debuff. And finally, usually there are for different elements, there are some special sub-skills. For example, here for finger, it's for every stack of the inner emptiness, your damage will increase to 1.2%. And when there are 6 stacks, your HP will be restored 779 every second. It's not much. These two are not much, but better than nothing. So yeah, you can use finger secret menu. It's always good, but more importantly, you can use fire secret menu. And did I mention it before? No, this is probably the first time I mentioned it in my videos. But basically, in this game, till now, Fire Secret Manual is the best way to increase your damage. And this is, if you look at the sub-skill, for every Fiery Flame generated, your damage will increase 8%. That's 8% for every Fiery Flame. If you remember in my lightning video, it shows that for every lightning bolt created, your damage will increase by 1.8%. And this is 8%. And if you equip a Fire Secret Manual, I already put it here, and a Fire Motion, you will here, right? You will create Fairy Flames, and based on the Fairy Flame, you can increase attack. So the fact that Finger does not depend on Secret Manual actually makes it good, because you can use fire. But that is not the point of this video, so I will not show it. Let me unequip this. And for Mastery, it would be the same thing, just like every single element. So you always want all the 4 red ones here. Basically, skill cooldown of your ultimate, of your motion skill, of your martial skill, and your special skill. That's a good thing. You want some attack and defense. So, in fact, if you look at the game data, there are 2 other sub-skills in the Finger Mastery, which will make you apply true damage to the enemy when you have inner emptiness. Unfortunately, those are not really implemented in game, so you cannot use it. But otherwise, it will make Finger even better. Okay, I think that's about mind skill. Now let's go to the next one, ultimate. So you have 2 ultimate, and the one which is used with this build is this one, Spiritual Burst Finger. And what does it do is it will, every time you make, again, when you make the enemy lose energy, so mana burn the enemy, you will receive a stack of Spiritual Burst. And based on how many stacks of Spiritual Burst you have, you can use this out and deal a lot of damage. Let's just do it. I do apply the debuff, trigger the debuff. Now, look at this. This is 30 layers of the Spiritual Burst. I am attacking very fast and I am at a very high level, so that's why I just use this one time. I got 30 layers. And then I can use this ultimate. What it do is, boom. It's like nuclear bomb. I'm saying this not only because it creates really big range, but also it has really good damage in early game. So early game, the moment you gain 30 stacks like this, you can have really huge damage. This is because the damage of this ult depending on how many stacks you trigger. But also, if you look at the 10th sub-skill, each stack of the Spiritual Burst will boost your damage of this ult even more. Right now it's very less because I'm at a very high realm. But the numbers are as such that if you're at low realms, if you are not on chaos, you can many times just one-shot big bosses, big monsters in this game when you just use this once. And even on chaos, you can one-shot NPCs using this skill. It's really good against NPCs and in early game. At late game, the damage just is not good enough. And one thing about it, like many times in many builds, I recommend to use Combat Expertise, which is a destiny that allows you to use your ult without the preconditions. So put them here, yeah, Combat Expertise. However, for Finger build, I have it here, but for Finger build, even if you have it, do not use your ult directly. This is because the damage of your ult depending on how many stacks of Spiritual Burst you have. So if you have 0 stacks of Spiritual Burst, you directly use your ult from the beginning of the battle, it does 0 damage. So basically you anyways need, a lot of stacks of spiritual burst to use you out. That's why you don't really need comeback expertise. I'm having this in my character not because of this, but because I want to use some other good out, like Fist 1 and Palm 1. Anyways, I think that covers how to make this mana burn finger. Alright, there's of course motion skill. It's the same thing as lightning. Motion skill will always let you, apply some buff to yourself, deal some buff to the enemy. But finger motion skill is actually somewhat interesting in the sense that it basically allows you to become invisible. Then you can move, you can move around. The enemy won't see you at all. And sometimes, but you cannot do any, damage. So the moment you start attacking, you will get out from this, invisible mode. For example, I do this, I'm visible again. Or even when I do some, attack, I will be visible again. However, let me show you something. So let me toggle this auto attack on. Once you reach reborn, you can use auto attack. And the fun fact is, when you have the auto attack, you use this, you can attack auto attack without, getting out of your invisible mode. It is somewhat okay, but not really useful. Can be fun. I think that because that's basically anything or only use about the finger motion. It's not good, but again, as I said before, that makes you opportunity to use fire. Okay, that's everything. No, alright. That's one last thing. There's another type of special skill which are worth on inner emptiness, that is Eternal Blast. So what does it do is, instead of just creating one big blast, it do this. Okay, but you can see that the target only stunned for 2 seconds. So for some reason, this skill consumes the debuff very fast. So you are not really enough to apply the debuff on the target. So you cannot reach forever stun. That makes it bad. So don't use it. Just recap again. We use inner emptiness martial skill, apply the debuff. Use special skill, always use void spirit blast, trigger the debuff. You make the target, you mana burn the target. You can attack, MP, HP from it, and your target is forever stunned. Makes it good. Once you reach 30 stacks of spiritual burst, you can use your out if you want to use this out. And that covers it. Now let's go to the second type. The second type of the finger build is based on Unsealed Meridians. Unsealed Meridian is a buff you apply to yourself. And there are some special skills it can do. Let me just check one more thing, sorry. Let me remove this, because I want to showcase something without the set effect. So the 3 special skills which based on the Unsealed Meridians are this Demonseal finger, Spirit Seal Blast, and the Shadowy finger. So let's first use the most useless one, which is Shadowy finger. Sorry to say it's useless, but it is really useless. The devs didn't do a very good job here. So I'm attacking. You can see there are 13 layers. Here I can use this. It is this is this thing I'm shooting now, the laser beam. So basically, first of all you need to continuously press down your mouse key. It is a continuous skill, and it just shoots out this laser beam against your enemy. Its damage is really bad, and that's what makes it bad. Not only this, the devs even want to make it better by creating a set effect, but the only result is even that set effect is bad. Just don't use that set. I think they really need to do something about this skill. I just realized I need to toggle this off just to show it better. Anyway, But okay, I showed you this, but there is something which it might be interesting to you. So if you look at the eighth one, upon hitting an enemy, this skill has a 30% chance to inflict sealed meridians. Now if you look at on the right side, not only there is this thing called Unsealed Meridians, which is the buff effect, there is also sealed meridians. Basically, it's a debuff you apply to the enemy, so the enemy cannot cast any skills. This sounds very powerful, but just look at the next. This effect cannot be inflicted on elite monsters or mythic beasts. Basically, nothing. It's only useful for NPCs. And yeah, it's not good. I will come back to this part later when I'm talking about out. And that just a spoiler, it's another disappointment, but that's something later. Now let's go back to Spirit Blast. I think there are a few videos in my channel. If you look at one of my finger videos, I'm using this one, and also it is featured in the Zero CD tutorial video. And yeah, it is only skill in finger you can achieve 0 CD, because it has this sub skill that when there's only one enemy, the cooldown minus 4 seconds. And as I mentioned in that tutorial video, it is important, it is good when you want to use one of the set effect, because this will let you use 0 CD special skill, and it is powerful. And in fact, that is something about this entire category when you use the buff Unsealed Meridians. Either you use Spirit Blast to have this 0 CD build. Do I need to show it? It actually looks very similar to the other Void Spirit Blast. Yeah, it's just like this. And you can see that the CD is much shorter. I'm not in the 0 CD setup, so that's why it's not a 0 CD, but it's still pretty short. What else? Yeah, the last one, which is actually interesting, which is I only find it recently, is the Demonseal finger. It's actually really good, surprisingly, which I did not realize before. And I think maybe it is something introduced in the recent versions, because otherwise I don't know why I never noticed it before. So what does it do? So when I was doing attack, you can see I have certain layers of the buff. I'm using this. It continues to shoot out a series of things, right? When I don't have any buff, I use it, it shoots out one time. But when you have the buff, you shoot out many rounds. And it is what's written here: for every stack of Unsealed Meridians, you will unleash another round of Finger Shadows. There is a bug here, because when you look at third sub-skill, it shows that if the skill is cast when there's only one enemy, the cone angle reduces. It is good because when you have less cone angle, so basically like this, you are more easy to hit the enemy, right? But just like I was showing here, I'm using it, initially it's like this, and then the last round somehow it becomes wider again. Seems that this one enemy thing, it's not really triggered. It's a bit weird, but might be a bug, but doesn't really matter much. But look at this. I'm just using it one time. It shoots out many rounds of projectiles. And this makes it actually not bad. And most importantly, and actually I'm coming or directly coming to the set effect part. This is because this category, so Unsealed Meridians or the buff category of the finger build, you need to use it with the set effect. So the set is called Arcane Portal. Let's just put all of them on. So, and I have too many mind skills that many times I just forget what are what. And let's put on, now I have how many? I have 3. I am going to put on a finger, this one as well. Okay, so now I have 4 sets of Arcane Portal. You can see it on the right. The 2 set effect for each time when you use special skill, there's 25% chance to upgrade the Boomerang finger. This is what I mentioned in the very beginning of this video, that the Boomerang finger will become powerful at the end of the game. This is because you can upgrade it with set effect. And when you have the 4 set, once you upgrade to level 5, the out skill cooldown minus 50%. And it is pretty good because this allows you to have really short out cooldown and you can use the out all the time. And the level 5 Boomerang Finger itself is also quite good. Let's just show you that now I have 4 sets. Let's show you what makes when I say that Demonseal Finger is actually quite good. Now I have the set effect. I'm doing it again, tagging, using it. Yeah, look at this. You see that apart from these purple ones, there are this one entire round of white thing coming out of me. And that is actually the effect of the level 3 Boomerang Finger. Let me just show. So, level 1 Boomerang Finger allows you to increase the damage and projectile size. Level 2, again the same thing. But level 3, which is already you can reach when you have 2 sets. Every time you cast special skill, it will cast another circle for Boomerang Finger. And that is what's happening with, one entire big circle, this white thing. And it will pretty good damage. And it seems that every time you use this special skill, when you unleash another round of finger shadows, when you have your this buff on top of you, again, when you keep on attacking, you are applying buff to yourself. It will count as one cast of special skills to allow you to upgrade your Boomerang Finger faster, and also allows you to cast another circle of Boomerang Finger. So that is what makes this build viable again. And now G4, that is return twice, and G5 basically makes a Boomerang Finger triggers explosion every 0.2 seconds. So now let's go back to Boomerang Finger and let's see what actually G5 Boomerang Finger do. So initially Boomerang Finger like this, right? Not very good. I'm using this to upgrade it. Am I at level 5 now? No, level 4, sadly. Let's do it again. And I'm G5. So this is what Boomerang Finger at the end game looks like. Really huge explosions, and it actually makes it much better than before. But personally, I would still prefer Duality Finger compared to this. Even though this might have good damage, but it's still one projectile, and I need Duality Finger to apply the buff better. Anyway, but yeah, so Boomerang Finger or Duality Finger with Demonseal Finger is viable if you have a set effect. And let's go to the last part of this different build, which is the out. And I already said it's another disappointment, and I will show you why. So what does this thing do? Okay, let's go back to this first, because I like this one. So how to trigger this out? So each time when you do Sealed Meridians, remember that I mentioned before that all the 3 special skills in this category, depending on the Unsealed Meridians, have a chance to put Sealed Meridians on the enemy. So each time you do this thing, it will generate a stack of pulse. And once you have 10 pulse, you can activate it and use this out. So first of all, it is not that bad. Actually, weirdly enough, I can't show you this thing on the arena because it's not very clear. Instead, I will show you against a real enemy. Let's say the Chicken King. Let's go with Spar. Yeah, right, Spar with you. I might be dead because I'm not in good terms, but doesn't matter. So, let me do the damage to it. And, oh, come on. Alright, using this. And you see this thing. This is the Sealed Meridians. And said before, it does not work on the boss. But, oof. So, what are those pulses? You see this red thing here on the ground. These are the pulses. But stupid part, I'm almost dead, is if you apply this, when this debuff is still there, it does not generate a pulse. You see that, I'm dead. But as I said, I'm not in good term, but this is the point. So these pauses will only be there if you need to, when you apply the Sealed Meridian, and you need to let this debuff go away, and then you apply it again. You do it 10 times, then you can use this out. It's stupid. They should change it long time back, but they never did anything of it. But anyways, and even if you have comeback expertise, which allows you to use it, the point is the damage of this, again, depending on the pulse numbers. If you directly use this out, there's no damage. And this is unfortunately what makes this out useless. I'm sad to say. But until they change this thing, there's no use of this thing. But if they changed it, and they probably have to tweak the damage numbers as well. It might be useful, especially with G5 Boomerang Finger. Allows you to have 50% cooldown reduction of out. It might be actually pretty good. Anyways, this is such a stupid thing. Oh, thank you. Let me try again. Because I don't want to be defeated by the Chicken King. Let's say if I use it now, you see this, I only have one pulse, and it doesn't do enough damage to do justice. Alright, let me... come on. But you see that the Demonseal finger is actually really good. Alright, and I think that would be it. And I will end this video with a showcase of just, standard finger with standard mana burn finger against maybe, let's say, not you, because this guy has damage limit. I don't like him. I like this guy, the Spear Immortal. 90%. I mean, you should be able to find other of my videos against 3 Immortals in my channel. I will put the link down as well. Yes, that's how it looks. Alright, thank you for looking at this video, and if you find this video helpful, please consider to leave a like or subscribe, and leave a comment what other element you want to see next. Thank you, and bye.